Good afternoon and welcome to NMIMS's podcasts. My name is Ashi Bharadwaj and I am flanked by Naini. And we have a very special guest today, Mr. Debesh Sharma. A round of mini applause for you, sir. Thank you for gracing NMIMS today. And we are thoroughly excited to be hosting you today. And I hope you're liking our campus. I hope you like our hospitality so far. And Naini will be taking over this interview.
Good evening, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Sir, could you please share any valuable, memorable story or experience during your Navy days, whether it was filled with fear or happiness?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the welcome. Good afternoon. And I'll put that bottle there despite being warned not to put the bottle there. But let's go in sequence. Yeah, I enjoyed my time on campus. It's been fabulous. I think you've got a lovely campus and your colleagues were kind enough to take me all around, including the hostel. It's very, very impressive, very modern campus, and I like it. Getting to the question that you have asked of me, obviously across almost 4 decades of work, I've got a large number of stories which I could probably offer you. But since you asked me for the most memorable one, the first which always comes into my mind is the time that I spent post 9/11. It was called Operation Parakram, which was after the attack on the Indian Parliament way back in 2001. Subsequent to that, I spent about 6 months off the coast of Pakistan. We were deployed up north in Gujarat. So I was first the second in command of a missile corvette. Then I commanded a ship. We were based there, and it was the most fabulous experience of my life because, I was in command of a fully combat-worthy battleship with a crew of, if I remember the number right, about 110, and that is baptism by fire, quite literally. So yes, that was an exhilarating experience.
Baptism by fire. That's a very interesting way to actually put it.
Yeah. Yes. It's an appropriate phrase, right?
It is, certainly is.
So moving on to the next question, could you share any valuable insights from your training days? How intense it was, and if any experience could be helpful for us, the management students?
From my training days, the interesting thing is, last year, approximately around the same point of time, we had our course get together in the National Defense Academy. And the reason I'm mentioning this specifically is because now the commandant of the National Defense Academy is my course mate. So we joined the NDA way back in 1984. That's a long way off. And there were over 100 of us over there. And when we met as if it were yesterday. And we met exactly the same way we would have had we been 20 years younger. And we spoke with each other and we engaged with each other absolutely identical to what it was when we were cadets. We started doing the same stuff that we did almost 40 years back to being kids. It highlights a very important thing, and it highlights the relationships that you make in training of that kind because it's extremely intense, very, very challenging. It puts you through quite literally the paces, and you rely on each other to get you through that. There's a song by the Beatles. I don't remember the name of the song actually, but one of the lines is, "Oh, I'll get by with a little help from my friends." And that's really what it is. And it's not just the training alone. This is a rule of life, and that's the lesson you ought to take away. I'll get by with a little help from my friends. You will always need your friends. You will always need people to stand by you. At no point of time should you ever think that you can do everything alone. You will never be able to achieve that. And the time when you want to do that is going to be the death knell that's going to be, which is going to be struck. So spend time not just in classroom learning about stuff, which you must, but equally so spend time building relationships, because these are the same relationships that you will make with your classmates and friends and seniors and juniors these 2 years in business school, that will stay with you right through. I'm friends with everybody I've studied with, and we still keep in touch and we help each other out whenever there's a need to. So that's probably the lesson you should take from there.
So put it together, pointer-wise, we would say learning, connections, and maybe sticking around as a team is what we are taking away as management students.
Absolutely right.
Perfect.
Absolutely right.
That's such
Teamwork is critical for success, personal and professional success.
That's such a valuable lesson, sir. So we have seen how dynamic your profile is and how adventurous you are. So do you have any experience when things went downhill but you managed to keep yourself calm and composed?
That's an interesting story. We're looking forward to this.
You said adventurous. There's always a very thin dividing line between bravery and stupidity. You know that, right?
Agreed.
It's a very thin dividing line. So I don't know which side of the line I fall, but that's okay. When I started my company, the company before this, Azent in Russia, we had a sterling run in 2019, and I had partnered with Airbnb. We partnered with Accor Hotels, with Louvre Hotels. That's the first and the second largest hotel chain in Europe. Airbnb, everybody's familiar with. And I had strategic partnerships with all these companies. And my team was absolutely fabulous. Classic startup technology company. First year, actually 6 months, we did $1 million in sales. And everybody knows what happened in January 2020. Okay, and this is a hospitality company, and that's the first space to get impacted. And this is for you guys. It's not what I did, because what I did is I can even change what I did. Or no, let me correct that. Let me rephrase that. If I have a chance to do this, I would probably change a lot of things that I did. So the point is not to go back and try and figure out what I did or what I didn't do, or post-mortem it in some sense. What we should always realize is your plans will never work. The military saying for this is no plan survives first contact with the enemy. Which means, the moment you are in the field, you jump into the fray, it's not going to go according to how you decided. But more importantly, the quote about planning, which comes to my mind always, is by General Dwight Eisenhower. He's also the President of the United States. He's commander of the Allied Forces. And what Eisenhower said, let me recollect that to the best of my abilities, is in preparing for war, I've always found that planning is indispensable, but most plans are useless. Now that's very appropriate to business as well. And there's a very close, intimate relationship between business strategy and military strategy, because business strategy is borrowed largely from military strategy. I'm sure you would have all been told to pay attention to Sun Tzu's Art of War, right? So business strategy has evolved from military strategy. So getting back to what Eisenhower said, what it implies is you should always plan, but you must remember that your plan is just that. It's a plan, and it will change, which was somewhat what my first quote alluded to, right? It will change. What planning allows you to do is it allows you to go through the thought process. It allows you to be able to sit down and figure out a prognosis of what the future might, I underscore this, might look like. And when you're going through that process, when you're going through that exercise of trying to imagine the future, what you're also doing is you're preparing for contingencies that things might not work out. Now, you can do that deliberately, or it happens subconsciously. But the fact is that planning is indispensable for you to figure out your plan B. Okay? Because you will need that plan B. You will need that plan B. I just told you about what happened with my business, right? You will need that plan B. And I don't know of anybody who has said that everything has gone according to the way I decided. So your plan always ought to have the inbuilt, inherent flexibility for things not to go according to plan, paradoxically so.
Interesting. So, sir, talking about plans, considering you have been coming from a Navy background to the field of management and actually just owning it completely, what are the striking differences that you've noticed between the two paths, and how did your personal experiences shape this change?
I think the most significant difference between the military world and the corporate world is the way we manage people. Entirely different. Even though there's a lot of participative management in the military where you call people and you sit with them and you talk to them and you seek their inputs, and it always happens. Getting your team to move along with you is of paramount importance in the military, because unlike the corporate sector, my life actually depends on somebody else. So there better be everybody moving together in the same direction. But the system and the way we manage people is somewhat different in the sense, like I said, there is a participative management definitely, but it is still it can still be driven top down to say I will take a decision, because very often you're in the middle of a battle. You're not going to call people to come and sit around the table and say, which way should we go?
Absolutely.
You're not going to do that. It's like, let's have some chai and biscuits and figure out, should we go north or should we go south? You don't have the luxury of time to do that. So you better be able to decide very, very quickly, take a decision, stick by it, yet be flexible enough to change it if the need arises had you taken a wrong decision. So it is still a bit more top down. Decision making is in many ways much faster. In many ways much slower, because it is a government entity at the end of it all. And that's a very significant difference between the two worlds. Very, very significant. And the second part of your question was, how did I adapt to it? I think as we transition not just between worlds, but say between companies as well, we just have to recognize that things are different. And the moment you start carrying baggage from the past to say, but it used to happen like this, and that, so it should again happen like exactly the same way, that's when you're asking for trouble. You should quickly realize that things are different, adapt to changed circumstances, and that is pretty much it. And the corollary to that is, if you find that there is something better that you observed in your previous experience or assignment, a job, whatever that might be, and you can implement it to where you are now, if you're able to do that, have you reached that position to do that, then you should. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, completely it does. Also, just to build on that, I'm just curious enough to know that what in you shifted, like 17 years in the Navy, and then I just want to know the process of you getting into business. Like, was it a 5 day, 6 day, 7 day, 6 month, 1 year process of you getting into business altogether, or was it building throughout the 17 years of your service at the Navy?
John Lennon, my Beatles, I'm very partial to them. I mean, that was my childhood music. He said, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans.
Yes.
It's life. So, there are very many things you don't plan for and they just happen. So in my case, life happened. And I said, all right, now this is going to be something different. So let's just go for it. It's actually a long story, but I'm skimming over a lot of the unnecessary details. I took this decision based on a couple of factors. It was never a long, drawn-out, 17-year decision in the making. It was something that happened fairly rapidly. I took a decision and I said, all right, let's try something else in life.
So I see you're a person who plans as well, but is instinctive and is not actually afraid to go for it if not having a plan B.
Yeah, you should not be afraid of anything. As I was telling somebody else, the maximum that's going to happen is you're going to fail. Not beyond that. And failure isn't fatal. It's not fatal. And if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much it.
So, anything like in Navy, what helped you, those lessons helped you in your career, in your management?
Everything that I am today is because of what I learned. I joined the National Defense Academy when I was 16. At 16, you're a kid. And I'm sure a lot of 16-year-olds won't like me saying that, but the fact is that you're a kid at 16. And everything that I have today, I owe it to the NDA, and I owe it to the Navy after that, and to all my friends. Let me try and explain that. Honesty, integrity, loyalty. We place tremendous value on these qualities when you're in uniform. And each of them has helped me tremendously, inordinately. Each of them has held in good stead when I've managed my companies with people. Because people are the same, whether they're in the corporate world or whether they wear a uniform. And if you treat them with respect and you treat them with dignity and you're honest in your dealings with people, you're transparent in your dealings with people and don't play games, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And those are the things which are, I think these are human values, which are universal. It doesn't matter whether you're in uniform or out of uniform. But, your question was very specifically, what did I learn? I learned those when I was 16. And they stay with you. Well, hopefully they should stay with you. In my case, they have. So that's what I've carried right through.
Also, even though you've answered this question in a brief manner previously, but we'd like to dig deeper into it. So we came across a blog, Don't Build a House of Cards. So at Medium, can you please share the story behind Isn't? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Good. I'll
With our audience?
There's only one article which I've actually written on Medium, and I don't know why I wrote that article actually. And you found it. Very good.
Very good article.
Yeah.
We've got a good team. We've got a good team of people actually digging deeper into people's lives.
Thank God none of my crimes are on social media.
Yes. Digital footprint at the best.
Yeah. So how I started Ascent was somewhat interesting. In 2011, I was asked to set up the first project for Gazprom in Iraq. And I said to myself, Iraq is not a country where you apply for a tourist visa and go and you say, okay, I'm going for a holiday to Iraq. So I thought it'd be good to generally go and see what the country looks like. I was supposed to go there for 2 months. I came back from Iraq. I came back obviously for vacation, but I came back finally after my engagement, 2 years. That was the largest project at that particular point of time that Gazprom had done in the world. and I was fortunate to be a part of it. Courtesy that, I started going to Russia very frequently, and it was an epiphany that I had one day. I was staying in a hotel in Moscow, and that was before the ruble devaluation and so on and so forth. So it was about $350 a night. And I suddenly thought to myself, why am I paying $50 a night for a room that I don't even use? It doesn't matter whether it's business travel or, my personal money, but I'm basically not using the room. I mean, you think about it, when you're traveling on work or on leisure, you just leave your room after breakfast and then you'll come back in the night, irrespective of what you're going for. So what do you need? You need the fundamentals of a room. You need a clean room, clean bed sheets, a clean bathroom, and that's pretty much it. And some tea, coffee, etc. we can add. So I said, let's get hotels of this kind, curate them based on the quality of service, and physically check the hotels, and aggregate those. And what we could also do in addition is train these hotels in both hard skills and soft skills. So you create something like a branded chain of hotels of a particular category. And this is pretty much how Best Western had evolved subsequent to the Second World War. So that was the basic model that I worked on, and that's what we did until, of course, the pandemic put paid to our plans. So that's how that idea came. It was just one day when I was in that hotel, it just struck me, I'm wasting my money. And there must be a large number of people who are doing pretty much the same. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
It was lovely having you. Lovely conversation, and thank you for your insightful anecdotes and the comparison between, actually, the entire thing was beautiful to listen to, and we are taking away a lot of insights now. Obviously, the entire
Actually,
thing here.
it's very helpful for us.
Yes.
We'll be able to apply coming future.
Thank you very much. I'm glad.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Cheers.